In this ACT video, we will review how to solve equations with fractions. Now, when we look at an equation that has fractions in it, a lot of times we think, oh gosh, I don't think I want to tackle this. And with the ACT, we want to make sure that we're using our time wisely because you have 60 minutes to answer 60 questions. So when we look at an example of an equation such as this one on the screen, we've got 1/4 x minus 2/3 equals 5/12 x. Anytime you see an equation, no matter what type of equation it is, I always recommend getting rid of the fractions first. So when we talk about what makes a fraction, the fact that we have a denominator piece there, that makes a fraction. So if we look at our denominator pieces, let's get a highlighter. If we look at our denominator pieces, they're 4, 3, and 12. And those three pieces actually have a number in common. So when we see fractions, we want to look at the denominators and we want to find the least common multiple of the denominators. All right, so when we talk about multiples of 4 would be like 4, because 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. And when we talk about multiples of 3 would be 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 5 is 15. And we can keep going. But remember, we're trying to find the least common multiple. So we're trying to find the smallest number, hence the word least, that these three denominator pieces have in common. So multiples of 12, you see we're going to just stop right here at 12 times 1 is 12. So the least common multiple of 4, 3, and 12 would be 12. So we're going to remember our golden rule for solving equations, and we're actually going to multiply each number piece, each term by 12. Multiply that by 12, multiply that by 12, and multiply this one by 12. And technically that 12 is over the number 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to cross simplify each one of these fractions. In other words, 4 goes into 4 one time, 4 goes into 12 3 times. 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 12 4 times. 12 goes into 12 once, and 12 goes into 12 once. So those 12s cancel out. And then we're going to multiply. 3 times 1 leaves us with 3x minus 2 times 4 leaves us with 8 equals 5 times 1 is 5. And now we've got a much more manageable equation, and we reviewed how to solve equations in a previous video. So we just add 8 to both sides. The 8's cancel. This leaves me with 3x is equal to 13. Divide by 3 on both sides. 3's cancel. And x is 13 over 3. 13 is not divisible by 3, so we'll just leave it like that. Let's try a few more, so make sure we get the hang of it. All right, check this one out. We've got x over 3 plus 3 equals x over 5 minus 1 over 3. So what we want to focus on first, because we see these fractions, and we're not really liking that, so we want to look at these denominator pieces. We've got 3, 5, and 3. So essentially we're only dealing with two different denominator numbers, the number 3 and the number 5. So in our heads on the ACT, if you need to write it out, that's okay. Just remember you're under time constraints there. So if you can think about what the least common multiple is for 3 and 5, you can go ahead, write in, and multiply each term by that number. But just to review, least common multiple, 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 4 is 12, 3 times 5 is 15. Likewise, 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, and 5 times 3 is 15. And you probably could figure that one out without writing it all out, and that's good too. That's the smallest number 3 and 5 have in common. So now we're going to multiply each term by 15. This is a little close together here, but remember that 15 is over 1, and that's why we can cross simplify. So 3 goes into 3 one time, and 3 goes into 15 5 times. Right here, we don't have anything to simplify, so we'll actually just multiply those together. And here, 5 goes into 5 once, and 5 goes into 15 3 times. And here, 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 15 5 times. 5 times x leaves us with 5x plus 3 times 15 is 45 equals 3 times x is 3x minus 1 times 5 leaves me with minus 5. And as we reviewed in the Solving Equations video, we've got variables on both sides, so you can draw your line, keep the variables on the left, 5x, numbers on the right, cross the line, change the sign, negative 45, 3x on the left, negative 3x because we crossed over, bring the negative 5 right on down. 5x minus 3x is 2x equals negative 45 minus 5 leaves me with negative 50. And then all we have to do is divide on both sides by 2, and x is equal to negative 25. Let's try one more. Right here we have x minus 3 over 5 equals 1 minus x over 3. Okay, I'm using this example because this first term sometimes throws people off a little bit, but we're going to approach this the same way. Because we have denominator pieces, we want to look at the denominators first. That's what makes a fraction. Our denominators are 3 and 5, and we want to find the least common multiple of those denominators. Well, we already know the least common multiple for 3 and 5 would be 15. So we multiply each term by 15. Remember, the golden rule says what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So as long as we multiply each piece by 15, we're not breaking any math rules. All right, then think about this x minus 3 as one quantity. If you want to put parentheses around it, that may help you. That whole quantity is over the number 5. So all we have to do is one simplification here. 5 goes into 5 once, and 5 goes into 15 3 times. All right, then on the other side of the equal sign, 15 times 1, there's nothing to simplify there because we don't have any fractions. And our last term, 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 15 5 times. All right, so bring down your 3, and then bring down x minus 3 in the parentheses, because that's one quantity, equals 15 times 1 is 15, minus x times 5 is 5x. Now this is the tricky piece here on this one, and the ACT likes to use examples like this. What you have to do with that x minus 3 is think about it as the one quantity, because our next step would be to distribute. So we have to get rid of those parentheses first. 3 times x is 3x minus 3 times 3 times 3 is 9 equals 15 minus 5x. All right, we've got variables on both sides, so we are going to draw our line. We want letters on the left, so bring the 3x down. Numbers on the right, the minus 9 comes across and becomes a positive 9. The 15 comes straight down. The minus 5x comes across and becomes positive 5x. We add those columns up. That leaves me with 8x is equal to 16. Now let's come right over here because we're running out of room. And when we have 8x is equal to 16, all we have to do is divide by 8 on both sides, and x is equal to 2. So as you can see, once we get rid of the fractions, these equations become much easier and much more manageable to deal with. So anytime you see an equation that involves fractions, find the least common multiple, multiply each term by the least common multiple, and get rid of those fractions.